Students, in the last class we have seen the insect pests of rice, mainly lepidopteran pests. We will continue with the insect pests of rice and its management. Today we will see the rest of the pests, mainly dipteran and hemipteran pests and some minor pests also. So coming to the next pest, that is rice garment, it's a dipteran pest. The scientific name is Orseolia oryzae. The family is Cecidomidae. Almost all the garments belong to the family Cecidomidae, so remember this family name. So if you hear somewhere about a garbage, you can readily infer that it belongs to the family Cecidomidae of dipteran. All the garments are small insects, and this rice garment is a mosquito like insect. That means it is very slender insect with long legs and red abdomen. You can see it looks like mosquitoes, but see the body, it is having reddish coloration, and it lays eggs at the base of the leaf. And once the maggot hatches out from these eggs, it crawls down between the leaf sheath and reaches the growing point of the plant. I will repeat again. Eggs are laid at the base of the leaf. Once it hatches, the maggot moves between the leaf sheath and it reaches the growing point. Once the maggot reaches the growing point, it starts to form an oval chamber around it, and this formation of this oval chamber is induced by the secretion of a chemical called as cecidogen. Remember this. So I'll repeat. The maggots start feeding on the growing portion. It secretes a chemical called as cecidogen, and this cecidogen leads to the formation of a cylindrical gall around the maggot, and this cylindrical gall grows out as silver shoot or onion shoot. The growing part is fed by the maggot, and it secretes a chemical called as cecidogen. This leads to the formation of a gall, but as the growing portion is damaged, this gall grows out into an elongated gall called as silver shoot or onion shoot. I'll show a picture of it. You can see this is the central shoot. The next picture, it will be clear to you. You can see this central shoot. Here it is almost silvery white in color. It is cylindrical in nature. So this is due to the activity of garbage maggot in the growing part, and it secretes chemical cecidogen, and it forms an oval gall around it, and this gall grows out as the silver shoot or onion shoot. It looks like the shoot of onion. That's why it is called as onion shoot. One typical feature is that you can see it over here. This is the silver shoot, this cylindrical one. This one is the silver shoot. This is the cylindrical. You can see a dried small portion. Actually, this cylindrical part is the modified leaf sheath. The leaf sheath is modified into this cylindrical gall called the silver shoot or onion shoot, and the leaf will be remaining at the tip of this gall. You can see this dried portion. The next picture, it is clear. Okay, I'll show. Here it is clear. This is the onion shoot. That is the modification of the leaf sheath, which elongates the because of the secretion of cecidogen, and at the tip of the leaf sheath you can see the leaf blade. It will be drastically reduced. You can see once the onion shoot or silver shoot is formed, the growth of the plant is arrested. So it leads to heavy loss in this crop in rice. So this feeding by the larvae leads to the formation of an oval chamber around it. It secretes cecidogen, and because of this chemical, the gall elongates and comes out as silver shoot or onion shoot. At the tip, we can see a reduced leaf blade, and the gall is the modification of the leaf sheath that we have discussed. And the garden which can survive on gramineous weeds, so weed management is critical for controlling this pest. Coming to the management of this pest, We have developed several varieties, especially the KU station at Mangumbu, Rice Research Station Mangumbu, has a mandate to breed varieties which are resistant to garbage because garbage is a serious pest in coconut tract. So most of the varieties which are released from Mangombo are resistant to garbage. The major examples are the most commonly cultivated variety Uma along with Pavitra, Panjami and Shreyas. And garbage is usually seen in the first crop season. In the second crop and third crop, we don't normally see garbage. And in the first crop itself, if the planting is delayed, say if there is a delay in monsoon, the farmers may go for delayed sowing of the crop. So if we go delaying the sowing of the crop, then we usually observe garbage infestation. What we normally observe is that in 2 to 3 years back, we have observed garbage infestation in the first crop in Thrissur district. What happened was most of this garbage infestation was seen in those upland paddy crops raised on that. Department of Agriculture had a scheme on upland rice cultivation, so rains were delayed, so the farmers delayed the sowing of the upland rice, and this late planting of this late sowing of the crop led to infestation of garments. As I told you, it survives in weed host, so we destroy any alternate weed host. Then remember this name, Platygaster oryzae. Platygastor oryzae is a natural parasitoid of garbage and it parasitizes the pupae of garbage. So remember Platygastor oryzae. And coming to the chemical management, we can opt for seed or seedling treatment. In seed treatment, what we can do is before sowing the seed, we can dip the germinated seeds in 0.2% chlorpyrifos for 3 hours. So before sowing of the crop, dip the seeds in chlorpyrifos 0.2% solution for 3 hours. If you are going for transplanting, we can dip the roots of the seedlings. Once we have pulled out the seedlings from the nursery, dip the roots of the seedlings in chlorpyrifos solution. See the dose, there is a slight difference between seed treatment and seedling root dip. Seed treatment, the dose of chlorpyrifos is 0.2%. In seedling root dip, the dose is 0.02%. And the seedlings should be, roots of seedlings should be dipped in chlorpyrifos solution for about 12 hours before planting. So you can go for seed treatment or seedling root tip with chlorpyrifos, or then we can go for broadcasting of granular insecticides such as carbosulfan 6 kg per acre. The dose is almost the same. Fipronil at 5 kg per acre and chlorantraniliprole as 4 kg per acre. The dose is same as that of for the management of stem borer and leaf folder. But remember, once you have seen a silver shoot in a crop, there is no purpose in going for an insecticide spray because by that time the maggot must have pupated and emerged as adult garbage. So the damage will be already done by the garbage. So once you have seen the onion shoot or silver shoot, it's late. So most cases we have to go for resistant varieties so that there is no chance of any insect infestation, and avoid any delayed sowing, destroy weed hosts, and if you are suspecting garbage infestation, go for seed treatment or seedling root tip, or at the time of planting, transplanting or broadcasting, go for granular application of insecticides such as carbosulfan, cartap or fipronil or chlorantraniliprole. So this is with respect to garbage and its management. So remember the nature of damage, it's typical. The nature of damage is feeding of the maggot in the growing region, secreting a chemical called cestogen leads to the formation of an oval gall around the maggot. This oval gall grows out as cylindrical silver shoot or onion shoot, which is the modified leaf sheath, and at the tip of the onion shoot you can see a reduced leaf blade, and the symptom we can see is onion shoot or silver shoot. So that you have to remember. The next pest is next we will be moving on to hemipteran pest, sucking pest. One of the most important hemipteran sucking pests infesting rice is brown plant hopper or BPH. We abbreviate it as BPH, brown plant hopper. The scientific name is Nilaparvata lugens and the family is Delphacidae. The order you may know is Hemiptera. Most of the plant hoppers belong to the family Delphacidae. There are certain family plant hoppers which are in other families, but most of the plant feeding plant hoppers are in the family Delphacidae. We have two kinds of BPH normally we observe. One is Brachypterus and Macropterus, that you can see it in this picture. See, we have four BPH, one at the front and the other at the back. You can see the wings are not fully developed, partially developed. These are the brachypterous forms, and those two BPH in the middle, you can see the wings fully developed. These are the macropterous forms or fully winged forms. So we can see two kinds of BPH, brachypterous or macropterous, and the eggs are laid along the mid region of the leaf sheath. Here remember, it is a plant hopper. We normally observe these plant hoppers at the bottom of the plant. We don't normally see plant hoppers on the leaf region. We usually see leaf hoppers in the leaf region and plant hoppers in the stem region. And the eggs of BPH looks like the hands of banana bunch. I don't have a picture of it. If you search in Google, you can see a picture of it. The eggs looks like hand of banana bunch. And as with any sucking pest, the nymphs and adults, the nature of damage for any sucking pest is sucking sap by the nymphs and adults. And as I told you, the insects will be residing at the base, bottom of the plant. It is a plant hopper. So, nymphs and adults suck sap from the base of the plant, and the pest is severe during Punja season. Yes, that means the summer crop. If the crop is delayed, if the planting is delayed. If you are going for timely sowing of the crop, the crop will escape BPH infestation. If you are delaying the cropping, especially if the crop extends up to the May, then we can expect the incidence of BPH. And coming to the, as I told, it is nature of damage is sucking sap from the base of the plant by nymphs and adults, but the symptom is typical. In this picture, you can clearly see at the center of the field, you can see a round dried up patch. That is the typical feature of BPH infestation. So at the middle of the field you can see a circular dried patch, and this circular drying of this plant is called as hopper burn. So it is called as hopper burn. Remember this name. This drying up of the plant in circular patches is called as hopper burn. This circular drying usually seen only in the initial stages. Later on, as the insect population increases, it spreads all over the field. You can see the drying initiated over here, and you can see in this picture the other parts also slowly started drying. Once you see a plant drying like this, immediately you shouldn't confirm it from the bund itself. You should move into the field, observe the plant close, and observe the plant base of the plant to see the insect. You can see this is a picture of the base of the plant, and you can see number of insects congregating at the base of the plant. I will show you a closer picture. See, you can clearly see the macropterus and brachypterus hoppers at the base of the plant, that you can clearly see. So only after you see the insect at the base of the plant, confirm it as BPH, because there is a disease called a sheath blight, which is the symptoms are almost resembling the BPH infestation, that is drying up of the plant. So once you observe drying up of the plant in patches, especially in circular patches, observe the base of the plant for any BPH. So the plants will turn yellow before drying, and the drying in circles leads to hopper burn. And if the infestation is not checked or controlled properly, the entire field will dry out. Another important feature with brown plant hopper is that it is a vector of viral diseases such as grassy stunt and ragged stunt. So remember, with BPH we have brachypterous and macropterous form. The nymphs and adults suck sap from the base of the plant. Because of the sucking of the sap from the base of the plant, we can see the field drying up of the field in patches, especially in circular patches, and this drying up of this field in circular patches is called as hopper burn. And if you have seen any hopper burn infestation, check the base of the plant for any insect. And if we are not taking any control measures properly, it will lead to complete drying up of the field, and it is a vector of viral diseases such as gas resistant and drag resistant virus. Coming to the management practice, the BPH are just like garbage. BPH also has very good resistant varieties. This mainly evolved from Mangambu station itself. So both the varieties are same for which are resistant to the varieties which are resistant to garbage and BPH are one and the same. Pavitra, Panjami, Uma and Shreyas. So you can remember it. Aishwarya and Triveni of BPH resistant varieties from RARS Patan. So we have resistant varieties. Then we can go for alternate wetting and drying. That is one practice which will help in reducing BPH infestation, because high humidity usually favors the buildup of this pest. Alternate wetting and drying reduce the humidity. Then in the summer rice crop, try to go for early planting of the crop. Another important management practice is to go for synchronous planting with uniform maturing varieties. Synchronous planting means if we have a large tract of paddy field, in Malayalam what we call it as Padashagaram, or Padashagaram. In cold areas we usually say it as cold padavar, a large tract of continuous paddy field, and it will be managed by a committee. That is the usual practice over Kerala. So if the farmers are going for planting the crop at the same time, that is synchronous planting, then the chances of BPH infestation will be less. But if the farmers are going for staggered planting, say one farmer has planted or sowed the crop or transplanted the crop today, another farmer has gone for transplanting 2 weeks later, another one after 1 week. So that means it is a stretched or staggered planting. In those cases, there will be buildup of insect in the field, and once one field is harvested, the entire insect will migrate from the harvested field to the other fields where the crop is in the susceptible stage. So go for synchronous planting, avoid staggered planting, and one thing we have to remember is that even if we are going for synchronous planting, and if the farmers are opting for different varieties with a different duration, then it will be again staggered. The crop will be again staggered. So the farmer should be advised to go for synchronous planting in their area, and at the same time they should use the same variety. Or if they are going for different varieties, the variety should have the same duration. If you are going for a variety with say Maniratna, which is having 100 days duration, and say Uma with a duration of 130 to 140 days. So the first, even though we have gone for synchronous planting, after 100 days, Maniratna will be ready. We will harvest Maniratna. The BPH population which has slowly built up in Maniratna will migrate towards the neighboring plots which are which are planted with Uma, which is in the susceptible stage. Next 30 to 40 days, Uma will be there in the field. So we should go for planting with synchronous planting with varieties of same duration. And if we are going for transplanting, we should provide alleyways. I will show a picture of it. Here you can clearly see, we can see a normal planting wherein it is planted at a width of, the normal planting is done at the width of 3 meter, and after every 3 meter you can see a small gap, a 30 centimeter gap. This is called as alleyways through which the laborers or farmer can move. So we will plant as usual at say 20 by 15 centimeter spacing, and after every 3 meter we will give a spacing of 30 centimeter. We will give a space of alleyway of 30 centimeter. You can see in every field. See, it is clear over here. After every 3 meter there is a small gap provided. The gap is of 30 centimeter. So this is called as alleyways. These alleyways provide aeration, and it is an excellent practice, cultural practice, to reduce BPH infestation. So allow alleyways after every 3 meter. Another typical feature is that if the farmers are going for closer planting, or the farmers are growing for high seed rate, there will be closer planting of the field, and there will not be any aeration and it invites BPH. So avoid closer spacing. In nowadays in large paddy growing tracts such as Thrissur coal or Malappuram coal, the planting is usually done by migrant Bengali laborers. These migrant Bengali laborers have the habit of planting at a wider spacing. If you observed any transplanting by Bengali laborers in Thrissur or Malappuram coal lands, you can see they may go even up to 30 or 40 centimeter spacing, just like planting vegetables. So it will be widely spaced. And nowadays we don't normally find BPH infestation in Ponani or Thrissur colons. That's because of the wider spacing. But we can't recommend such wider spacing. If you are going for such wider spacing, the yield will reduce. So go for the optimum spacing or optimum seed rate so that the buildup of BPH can be avoided. Then BPH is highly attracted towards light in the night. So use light traps. It is extremely good for managing BPH. Another thing is to go for balanced fertilizer application, excess nitrogen application, just as in the case of leaf folder we have discussed, favor the buildup of BPH. And whenever we are going for pesticide application, try to avoid synthetic pyrethroid group of pesticides. Synthetic pyrethroid group of pesticides are contact in nature. They don't have any systemic property. That means if you go for spraying the crop, it will kill those insects where the pest insect comes into contact with the insecticide or the insect moves over the treated surface. The insecticide won't be translocated into the plant. We have discussed earlier that this is a pest which remains at the base of the plant. So that means if a laborer is going for spraying at the top of the rice crop, the insecticide won't reach the bottom portion wherein the pest is residing. So if you are going for a spray of contact insecticide, one thing you should do is that you should direct the spray towards the base of the plant so that the insecticide and insect can come into contact and can cause mortality to the insect. If the laborer is quickly going through the spraying operation by spraying on the top portion of the plant, insecticide won't reach the insect and the insect will survive. With respect to synthetic pyrethroid, it's a contact insecticide. It has to be directed at the base of the plant. But normally BPH infestation occurs once the crop has attained complete tillering, maximum tillering, and it usually after flowering. So at that time, directing the spray to the base of the plant is extremely difficult because the entire field will be thickly densely grown by the rice, and we won't be able to direct the nozzle towards the base of the plant. So synthetic pyrethroids won't reach the base of the plant and the mortality of the insect will be low. At the same time, synthetic pyrethroid has a negative attribute that it is extremely broad spectrum. That means it won't differentiate beneficial insect from those causing damage to the crop. So if you are going for spray of a synthetic pyrethroid, all those natural enemies which are residing in this crop will be killed. So the insect will survive because it is residing at the base of the plant. The insecticide won't reach the base of the plant, but the natural enemies which are moving over the plant surface will get killed by the synthetic pyrethroid spray. So KAU doesn't recommend synthetic pyrethroid sprays in rice for the management of BPH. We have very effective predators in the field. One such predator is Septorinus lividipennis. It is extremely good predator of BPH. And with respect to insecticides, the insecticides which is recommended for the management of BPH is slightly different except acephate. Acephate is the insecticide which are recommended for the management of leaf folder and stem borer at the rate of 1.65 gram per liter. But The other insecticides, imidacloprid, thiamethoxam, etc., is very good insecticide, are very good insecticide effective against sucking pests. Imidacloprid is recommended at the rate of 3 ml per 10 liter, and thiamethoxam is recommended at the rate of 2 gram per 10 liter. And as I told you, direct the insecticide towards the base of the plant. The three insecticides which I have given, acephate, imidacloprid and thiamethoxam, all three are systemic in nature. That means even if the insecticide won't reach the pest, if it is falling over the leaf surface, the leaf will absorb the insecticide and it will be translocated through the vascular bundles, and the insect, nymphs and adults of BPH sucking the sap from the vascular bundles will get killed. So with respect to management of BPH, we have resistant varieties. We have several cultural practices such as alternate wetting and drying, early planting of the crop in the summer, and go for synchronous planting with uniform maturing varieties, and provide alleyways that will improve the aeration in the field after every 3 meter. Use proper spacing, proper fertilization, avoid use of synthetic pyrethroids, and we have a natural predator that is Cryptorhinus lividipinis. And the insecticides, it is different from that. We have recommended against lepidopteran pests such as imidacloprid and thiamethoxam. Coming to the next set of hoppers, that is leaf hoppers. We have green leaf hoppers. We have two genus Nephotactix nigropictus and Nephotactix and Nephotactix virescens. The leaf hoppers belong to the family Cicadelidae. Remember, most of the leaf hoppers belong to the family Cicadelidae. Both the insects are wedge shaped, that means V shaped, and they have the green in color with black spots. But one typical feature is that the insect Nephotactix nigropictus is having two black lines between the eyes. See here, this is the compound eye, this is the compound eye, and you can see a black line connecting the compound eye. Here also you can see a black line connecting the compound eye. This is a typical feature of Nephotactix, identification character of Nephotactix nigropictus. It is greenish in nature with black spots on the forewing. And coming to virescens, again sometimes you may not see black spots in the case of virescens, but there are sometimes you can see black spot. But the identifying character is the absence of these thin black lines between the eyes that you can clearly see between Nephotactix virescens and Nephotactix nigropictus. So wings, in the case of virescens, wings may or may not be with black spots, but there won't be any black lines between the eyes. And the case of GLH, it's a vector of rice tungro, rice transitory yellowing, and rice yellow dwarf. All these three are viral diseases, and rice tungro is a major viral disease in other rice growing tracts of our country, but it's not that commonly seen in our state. Uh, GLH doesn't cause much damage, but its economic importance is because it is a vector of viral diseases. The eggs are laid on the leaf sheath under the epidermis, and nymphs and adults suck sap from the leaf, not from the stem. So we usually see GLH nymphs and adults on the leaf, not on the base of the plant. And sucking of sap by the nymphs and adults leads to stunting and withering of the plant. So GLH, the typical economic importance is it is vector of rice tungro disease. This is another picture. This is Nephotactix nigropictus. You can see the black line. This is virescens. You can't see the black lines between compound eyes. Coming to the next important sucking pest of rice, that is rice bug Leptocoryza acuta, belonging to the family Allididae. Remember this family name, you won't normally come across this Allididae family in other crops. They belong to family Hemiptera. This is the pest which we normally say in Malayalam as chari. നമ്മൾ chari എന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ് Leptocoryza acuta rice bug. And if someone has handled rice bug, it is having a characteristic offensive odor, a buggy odor. നമ്മുടെ ചാഴിയുടെ മണം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. It has a characteristic buggy odor. You can see the insect. Most of you might have seen, if you are familiar with rice crop, it is one of the easiest pests to spot that is infest the crop during the flowering stage. Though at the vegetative stage it will survives in the weed host, it shift to the main crop, that is rice crop, during the flowering stage, especially when the grain is in the milky stage. You might have studied at the different stages of rice crop, and in the after once the panicle has emerged, the first is milky stage, and during the milky stage, the nymphs and adults suck sap from the grains at the milky stage. Once the grain hardens, the insect will not be able to suck sap. This is a closer picture of the insect. See over here, if you have completed the weed course, you might have identified this. This is a weedy rice, which is similar to it. So the typical feature of weedy rice or wild rice is that it flowers pretty early compared to the main crop, at least 2 to 3 weeks before the main crop. So the rice bug population, even if it is small in number, it can survive on the panicles of weedy rice or wild rice. So try to avoid any gramineous weed from the field, because that is how the nymphs and adults survive in the field. If you are removing the weeds from the field, it will help in reducing the rice bug population. And because of the sucking of the sap from the milky stage of the grain, the grains turn chaffy. But unlike the chaffy panicles of stemborer, the entire panicle will be turned chaffy, as the symptom is whiter in the case of stemborer. But in the case of rice bug, you will see, you won't see chaffiness in the entire panicle. The chaffiness will be on individual grains. That means if you have some 100 to 150 grains in a panicle, here and there you can see chaffy grains, and on the grains itself you can see small brown spots just like over here. And this is the feeding injury, feeding puncture caused by rice bug. So this is the typical feature of it. Nymphs and adults suck sap from the grains in the milky stage. Grain turn chaffy, brown and dry up, and we can see small spots, brownish spots on the husk that I have shown you. And because of the reduced filling of the grains in the panicle, the affected earheads will stand erect. So the symptom will be almost similar to white ear of rice tempura, but the one thing is that in white ear the entire grains will be chaffy. Here only few grains in the panicle will be chaffy, and in this tempura we can confirm that. Try to pull it out, the white ear will come out easily, but in rice bug it won't come out. Coming to the management, as bees are the major host for the buildup of rice bug population, remove the weeds from the field as well as bunds. And as we had discussed in the case of BPH, we should go for synchronous planting with uniform maturing varieties. Otherwise, what will happen is that if we are going for staggered planting, once the crop is harvested, the entire rice bug shift from that harvested crop to the adjacent crop which is not harvested. So the neighboring farmer will have heavy infestation of BPH. So we should go for synchronous planting with uniform maturing varieties. Another strategy is, one thing we can go for is to collect and destroy the bugs using hand nets. You might have used hand nets to collect insects during the taxonomy course. So the hand nets can be used to collect and destroy the bug, but that's a laborious process. And the rice bugs are attracted towards light, and we can install light traps. And the BCCP, our BCCP center, SARP on Biocontrol Center has identified a Bavaria bassiana strain which is extremely effective against rice bug, and it can be sprayed at the rate of 20 gram per liter. And fish jaggery extract, നമ്മൾ മത്തി ശർക്കര മിശ്രിതം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, and it's an organic preparation comprising fish as well as jaggery in equal proportion, and we will allow them to ferment for 21 days. And if we spray it over the crop, it is found to be effective in repelling rice bug. We usually our package of practice recommends it at the rate of 6 ml per liter, but 6 ml per liter is a small low dose. If we have heavy rice bug infestation, we have to go for higher dose of about 10 to 20 ml per liter. Among the insecticides, we can go for spraying with malathion at the rate of 3 ml per liter, and the time of spraying against rice bug is critical. The Spraying should be done between 9 a.m. It is better to go for spraying before 8 a.m. or we can go for spraying in the evening after 3 p.m. Because between 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. the grains of this rice will be opened for pollination. If you are going for spraying at this period when the blooms of the rice grains are open for pollination, the spray droplets will fall into the rice grains, the open rice grains, and these grains turn chaffy. So in order to avoid that, try to complete the spray operation early in the morning before the opening of the rice flowers, or go for spraying in the late evening when the grain flowers are closed. This is one reason why if there is rain during the flowering period of rice, we normally get large number of chaffy grains once we harvest the crop. That's because once the crop flowers and if we have showers during that time, the rainfall will fall into the grain and it will affect the pollination. So remove weeds, uniform trimmers planting with uniform maturing varieties. If you use light traps, use Bevaria basin or fish jaggery extract or spray insecticides such as malathion either early morning or late in the evening. Coming to the next pest, that is rice thrips. This is belonging to the family Thripides Tenkatothrips biformis of order Thysanoptera. I will again repeat, the scientific name is Tenkatothrips biformis. Earlier it was considered as a minor pest, but nowadays we are observing this pest very frequently in most of the rice growing tracts, and the damage is severe in nursery as well as the early stage of the crop. In the later stages of the crop we don't normally see rice thrips damage, and the nature of damage is nymphs and adults lacerate the leaf. You might be remembering the modification of mouthpart of rice thrips. It is rasping and sucking. It lacerates and sucks the sap from the leaf, and because of the laceration and sucking of the leaf by the nymphs and adults of thrips, you can see drying up of the plants. You can see this is a mat nursery prepared for machine transplanting. Here there is patchy drying. Here also you can see drying up of the mat nursery in patches. One thing you should notice is that here the mat nursery is dry. There is not enough water. But here there is some water over the nursery, and because of the presence of water, the thrips infestation is low. So thrips survives in those tracts where dryness is prevailing in the field. See, the entire field is dry and the entire field is dried out because of BPH rice thrips infestation. And because of the laceration and sucking of sap from the leaf starts yellowing and drying from the tip. You can see drying of the leaf from the leaf tip, and the dried leaf will be rolled at the tip into needle like rolling of the leaf tip. You can see here the tip of the rice seedling is dried and it is looking like a needle. It is rolled inwards and the tip will be like a needle. So that is a typical symptom of rice thrips damage, wherein the feeding of the thrips and nymphs and adults leads to yellowing and drying of the leaf from the tip downwards, and there will be rolling of the tip and it will be needle like. So that's a typical symptom of nymphs. And one more way to identify thrips is that you can wet your palm in the water in the field and pass your wet palm over the crop. That means if you want to identify thrips here over here, just wet your palm on the small pool of water and pass your hand over this crop surface, and the small thrips will be attached towards the moisture on your palm. So that is one way to identify the insect. Pass wet hands over the leaf to detect the pest. And as I told you, dry condition in the field favors the multiplication of the pest. So remember the symptom, remember the nature of damage, and as I told you, water level, if there is increased water level in the field, it is a precaution against thrips. So If there is severe infestation of thrips in the field, you can flood the crop. In Kutanad area, there is sometimes thrips infestation is very severe, and the normal recommendation which is given to farmers is that go for flooding of the crop, because in Kutanad and cold lands there won't be any scarcity of irrigation water, because there these rice fields contain a good amount of water, and you can go for flooding of the field to manage this pest. So this is with respect to rice thrips. If you are going for pesticide application, you can go for imidacloprid or thiamethoxam at the same dose which we have recommended against BPH. This is the thrips adults which is feeding on the leaf, and you can see some whitish silvery streaks on the leaf surface. This is due to the laceration and sucking of sap by the thrips. Coming to the next pest, this is a minor pest, rice hispa. We have completed almost all the major pests infesting rice. Now we are moving into the minor pests. The first one is rice hispa, Diclodispa armigera. Though it is a minor pest, we can see the pest very commonly in the rice field, but the damage caused by the insect is pretty limited. It belongs to the family Chrysomelidae of the leaf beetle family of order Coleoptera, and this is a small beetle with spiny growth on its body, just like a porcupine. Swarmers usually call it as mullanvanda, just like we call it as mullambanni for porcupines. This is called as mullanvanda. മുള്ളമണ്ട് എന്നാണ് പലപ്പോഴും കർഷകർ വിളിക്കുക. This is because of the spiny outgrowth on the body. It is small, bluish black in color, and the adults lay eggs near the leaf tip. One typical feature is that the grubs of rice hispa is a leaf miner. That means the grubs, once it hatches out, it mines the leaves and it leads to the formation of blotches or blisters on the leaf tip. Here you can see it clearly. You can see there is a blotchy appearance on the leaf surface. The grubs mines the leaves, feed on the green matter, leaving the upper epidermis intact, and it leads to blotchy appearance. നമ്മൾ കൈയൊക്കെ പൊള്ളി കഴിയുമ്പോൾ പൊളച്ചു വരുന്ന പോലെ, so that is called as blotchy appearance. പൊളച്ചു വരുന്ന പോലെ തോന്നും, that we can clearly observe. That's the typical feature of rice hispa, damaged by this grubs. So that is the nature of damage. Grub is minor, it feeds on the green matter content, and the epidermis will be intact, leads to the formation of spots or blotches. And not only the grubs, the adults also is damaging. The adults feed on the green tissues of the leaf, that is, it feeds on the chlorophyll content, and we can see white lines on the leaf surface. See, this is because of this white lines on the leaf is due to the feeding of the adult. The grubs is a leaf miner. We can see blotches or blisters. Adult feeds on the green matter, and we can see white lines on the leaf surface. We won't be discussing much about the management practice because this is a minor pest. Next we will be discussing about another minor pest, blue beetle, Leptispa pygmy, again belonging to the leaf beetle family of Chrysomelidae. Blue beetle Leptispa pygmy is not a major pest in Thrissur and other southern districts, but it is a severe pest in the northern districts of Kasaragod and Kannur, and it is also sometimes it is also seen in Kozhikode and Malappuram district, but it's not a regular feature. But in Kasaragod and Kannur districts, this is one of the major pests infesting rice. And this insect is a small, elongate, metallic colored beetle. You see, this is very pretty small insect, but elongated beetles, which is shiny in nature. It's the name indicates it is blue in color, and just like hispa adults, this one also, the adults feed on the green matter of the leaf surface. That is the typical feature. So we may confuse with the damage of hispa and blue beetle, but one thing is that we can easily locate the insects. This is pretty easy to see on the leaf surface, and it leads to the removal of green matter content from the leaf. That is with respect to blue beetle. So this is one another picture of blue beetle. You can see the beetle over here. Coming to the next minor pest, that is rice skipper Pelopidus matthias. This is a lepidopteran insect, but this is not at all serious. This is minor. We commonly observe this insect in the rice field, but this doesn't cause much damage to the crop. This larvae folds the leaves longitudinally and feeds the green matter. This is a leaf folder. It folds the leaf longitudinally and feeds on the green matter. And see the larvae. Larvae is green in color. The pupa is a chrysalis, and the family is Hesperidae, the skipper family. So the skipper, if you remember the taxonomy clauses, the antennae, it's typical, it is hooked antennae, and the wings are not held either upwards or spread. It is at 45-degree angle, at the middle 45-degree angle of the body. That's one typical feature. The wings are brown or black in color, and the wings are having white spots. The forewings are having white spots. That's the way we can identify the insect. This we normally see in rice fields. It is pretty easy to locate, and this larvae is greenish in color. Larvae also we can see. So as I told you, adult is dark brown with white spots on the forewings. Coming to the next pest, that is rice horned caterpillar Melanitis lida. It is a nymphalid insect belonging to the order Lepidoptera. This is the typical larvae, that's why it is called as rice horned caterpillar. You see, the larvae is greenish in color, but it has two horns on the head, and kombund. So that's why it is called as rice horned caterpillar, and the horns are reddish in color, and the adults is typical. The adults is brownish, the wings are brownish, and the wings are having eye-like spots on the wings. You can see the forewing has bigger eye-like spots, and the hind wing is having smaller eye-like spots. This we normally observe in it is attracted towards light, and we normally observe in the home itself. You can see the green horned rice horned caterpillar Melanitis lida. The larvae feeds on the leaf plates. So this is also a minor pest, but this is commonly observed in rice fields, but the damage is minimal. The next one is another minor pest, lepidopteran minor pest, that is yellow hairy caterpillar Salis pennatilla, belonging to the family Lymanthidae, and similar to the earlier pest, that is Melanitis lida. It also feeds on the leaf. The caterpillar is particular, it is hairy in nature, and you can see yellowish yeah, brown colored insect, brown colored larvae with reddish spots over the larval surface. So that's a typical feature. It's yellowish brown with red stripes and orange head. The orange head is not visible, but we can see yellowish brown larvae with red spots or stripes on the body. It's a hairy caterpillar. This one is also common in rice field, but the damage is very minimal. So it's a minor pest. Next one is rice mealybug Brevinia rehi. The mealybugs belong to the family Pseudococcidae. Remember the family of mealybugs. And we don't normally observe mealybug infestation in Kerala. I haven't seen anywhere. Because of the feeding of the mealybug, we can see sunken oval or round patches in the field because the crop growth will be arrested, and the mealybug infested area, the crop will be standing dwarf compared to the other areas of the field. Now we will see a few pictures of minor insects in the rice field. One is white leaf hopper. Remember, it is a leaf hopper. The family is Cicadelidae. The scientific name is Cophana spectra, the order Hemiptera. You can see, as the name indicates, it is white in color. It's a leaf hopper. It sucks sap from the leaf. Next one is white bagged plant hopper. It is a plant hopper, so the family is Delphacidae. So it will be sucking sap from the stem. The scientific name is Sogatella falcifera, and you can see why it is called as white bagged. You can see a white bagged dorsal surface of the insect. Next one is zigzag leaf hopper. It's a leaf hopper, so it belongs to the family Cicadelidae of Hemiptera. The scientific name is Roselia dorsalis. You can see the zigzag pattern on the wing. This zigzag brown pattern on the wing. Another sucking pest is rice striped bug Tetroda hysteroides. It's a pentatomid bug. I think you remember the characteristics of Pentatomidae which you have learned in the taxonomy course, which have an enlarged scutellum. So this is rarely seen in rice fields, but sometimes the population may be a bit high, but the damage is minimum. Tetroda hysteroides. Next one is rice root weevil Echinogemus oryzae. It's a weevil, so the family is Crucleonidae. The grubs feed on the rootlets. I haven't seen rice root weevil in Kerala. Then comes rice grasshoppers. We have Hieroglyphus benian and Oxia nitidula belonging to the family Acrididae. This is common in rice growing tracts of our state, but the damage is minimum. The nymphs and adults feeds on the leaves, leaving the midrib. The next picture it is crystal clear. It feeds on the leaves, but the midrib will be remaining intact. This is the grasshoppers. Not all grasshoppers are phytophagous, only a few grasshoppers are phytophagous. Another minor pest which we normally come across in paddy fields is world maggot, Hydrilla philippina. That's a different pest belonging to the family Ephitridae. You might not have studied about this family. Ephitridae we study only about world maggot Hydrilla philippina. The damage is typical. The maggot, you can see the maggot feeds on the leaf blade before it unfurls. That means when the leaf is coming out of the plant, when the leaf is remaining rolled up before unfurling, the maggot feeds on this leaf blade. And because of the feeding of the maggot, we can see white transparent patches on the leaf. You can see rice plants with leaves like this, white transparent patches. That is due to world maggot. You can see clearly white transparent patches on the leaf with holes. That is because before opening up of the leaf blades will be fed by the maggots of world maggot, Hydrilla philippina. Then coming to the next, that is rice predators and parasitoids. Rice is a typical ecosystem which favors the buildup of number of natural enemies. Till now we have discussed numerous insects, but a similar number of or similar diversity of natural enemies can be observed in rice fields. There are huge number of predators and parasitoids which help the farmers to check the population of rice pests. So if we are reducing the pesticide application, it helps in the buildup of these natural enemies, and these natural enemies can suppress the pest population. That's why we can, if we are going for biological control of insect pests in rice, we can clearly achieve it provided we go for trichocards and other biocontrol option. This will conserve the natural enemies which maintains the pest population at below economic injury level, economic threshold level. So I'll be just showing you a few examples and photographs so that you can identify the insect once you are in the field. Among the predators, spiders are the most abundant predators in paddy fields. There are several genus of spiders in the rice ecosystem: Lycosa, Oxyops, Phidippus, Argiops, and Tetragnatha. Whatever be the spider genus, it feeds on almost all rice pests, BPH, temporadals, GLH, caterpillars, etc. So it is generalist predators, that means it feeds on whatever be the insect it comes across. You can see very good pictures. See the spider feeding on leaf folder adult. This is spider feeding on BPH, spider feeding on stem borer adult. This is a spider picture. Next one is coccinellets. You might have studied about coccinella, ladybird beetle. These are very good predators. Usually we see micraspis and Chilomenus sexmaculata in paddy fields. They are also generalist predators. That means it feeds on many insect pests, mainly on eggs and larvae. It is a major predator of rice BPH. See, this is micraspis. It is uniform in coloration. See, this one is also micraspis, but the color can vary from yellow, orange, etc. Kilominus, you can see it is yellow in color with three black lines. So that is typical. You can see kilominus in paddy as well as in vegetable ecosystem. This is very common in our state. This is a microspis feeding on BPH. This is microspis. This is Chilomenus in the field itself. This is the grub of coccinellids feeding on BPH. So it's not only the adults, but the grubs are also predaceous in nature with respect to coccinellids. Next one is ground beetle Ophionia. Ophionia, ground beetle. See, this is a picture from Bindi, but this ground beetle is also seen in rice ecosystem, especially in Thrissur and all. We commonly come across ground beetle Ophionia. This is red and black in color. This mainly feeds on leaf folder larvae. It feeds on BPH also. This is another picture of ground beetle Ophionia. Next one is row beetle or pedrus. You might have studied about this row beetle family, Staphyelinidae. The elytra is reduced. Elytra doesn't cover the abdomen fully. This is row beetles are pretty common in rice ecosystem. But one typical problem with row beetles is that it can cause allergic reactions to certain persons. It is seen in terrestrial or vegetable ecosystem also, but wherever it can cause slight allergic reactions to certain set of persons. Next, we have certain predators present in the water surface. One is water bug microvillia. It feeds on BPHO caterpillar. This is water bug microvillia. This is feeding on the insect. Again, microvillia feeding on insect. Next one is Sirtorhinus lividipennis, that is a major natural predator of BPH. It is a mirid predator that is belonging to the family Miridae. This is Sirtorhinus feeding on BPH. Again, Sirtorhinus. Then water treaders. You might have seen this kind of insect with long legs moving over the water surface. At least you might have seen this water striders. You can see, you might have seen in fresh waters, you can see uh, insects with long legs skating over the water surface. വെള്ളത്തിന്റെ മുകളിൽ തെന്നി തെന്നി നടക്കുന്നു. That's why it is called as water striders. വെള്ളത്തിലാശാൻ എഴുത്തച്ഛൻ എന്നൊക്കെ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയും. These feed on BPH moths and caterpillars. So there are several bugs which feeds on insects from the paddy fields. Next, damselflies. Damselflies you may be extremely familiar with, and it feeds on insects. Say this one is feeding on leafholder adult. It also feeds on GLH and BPH. This is a generalist predators. This is another picture of damselfly. Then crickets. Not all crickets are predators, but there are certain crickets in rice ecosystem which feeds on BPH, GLH, eggs of stem borer, armyworm, leafholder, etc. So this is the picture of a predaceous cricket. You can see the cricket in paddy field. Then ants and all, that is generalist predators which feed on insect. So this is with respect to predators. Coming to the parasitoids, there are several parasitoids in paddy field. There are naturally occurring ecparasitoid Tetrastricus shinobi, which effectively parasitize stem borer egg mass. This is the stem borer egg mass, and Tetrastricus shinobi is an ecparasitoid of rice stem borer. Then there is Telenomus rovani, again a stem borer, ecparasitoid of stem borer. Then Apandalus. Apandalus is a larval parasitoid. It is a major parasitoid of leafholder larvae. Once the parasitoid completes its life cycle inside the leafholder larvae, by that time the leafholder larvae will be killed, and the Apandalus larvae comes out of the killed leafholder larvae and pupate its outside. You can see here, this is the pupae of Apandalus. It has come out of the parasitized leafholder larvae and pupated outside. This is very common in paddy fields wherein we have not used any pesticides. If we go for pesticide application, the Apandalus population decreases and we don't normally observe this kind of symptoms. So here we come down to all the insect pests as well as the beneficial insects present in rice ecosystem. A common essay question which is asked in the final exam is integrated pest management in rice. Integrated pest management is that we have, if this question is asked, you have to combine all the management strategies which we have recommended against different pests. That means it should include host plant resistance, cultural control, mechanical, physical, biological, behavioral, and at last chemical control. So for your exam purpose, I am giving a short description of the IPM practices in rice. The cultural management practices includes grow green manuring crops such as danger. It's not for pest management, but if you're going for green manuring with danger, it adds organic matter to the crop. If the crop is growing in soil rich in organic manure, the crop will be more tolerant to insect infestation. And go for planting with resistant varieties such as Umas, Reyes, etc., which is resistant to garbage as well as BPH. Then before planting, go for seed or seedling treatment with chlorpyrifos if your area is having garbage infestation. You can write the dosage and all after referring the garbage. For seed treatment, we will go for 0.2% and seedling treatment we will go for 0.02%. And the planting should be at proper time with proper spacing, because delayed sowing in the first crop season favors garbage, delayed sowing in the third crop favors BPH. So avoid late planting, timely planting is one thing, and go for synchronous planting with uniform maturing varieties. That means plant the entire paddy area simultaneously and go for the same variety, or if you are going for different varieties, it should be of uniform duration. And one thing is, if you are going for transplanting the crop, one practice farmers usually do is, once the main crop is transplanted, if there is some plants left over in the nursery, they will leave as such. They won't care to remove the unwanted seedlings in the nursery. It will remain there and it will harbor the insect and diseases, and the insects and disease multiplying in this leftover nursery will migrate to the main crop. I will show a picture of it. Sorry, I don't have it. So I had a picture of a picture I had taken once I visited a paddy field, wherein at the middle of the paddy field, the farmer has kept the leftover nursery. So destroy the leftover nursery, and as we have discussed, go for proper spacing and seed rate, because closer spacing favors leaf folder, BPH, etc. For managing BPH, we can go for providing alleyways at every 3 meter. And many rice pests multiplies or in weed hose, especially gramineous weed hose such as rice bug, BPH, exit garbage, etc. So weed management is critical. And many insect pests, rice insect pests, increases, the population increases if you go for excess application of nitrogen. Typical example is BPH and leaf folder. So go for proper nutrition. Don't avoid potassium, because we have to go for balanced nutrition. And water management, there are several insects in rice ecosystem which can be managed by managing water properly. Say in the case of armyworm, flood the field, we can manage it. Say the case of caseworm, drain the field, we can manage it. For BPH, you can go for alternate wetting and drying. Thrips, you can flood the field, we can reduce thrips infestation. And to reduce the carryover of pupating rice stem borer, harvest as close to the ground. And once the field is harvested, plow the fields thoroughly and flood with water. Coming to the mechanical practices, in order to remove the eggs laid in the nursery, eggs of stem borer laid in the nursery, clip the seedling tips. And for dislodging the caseworm larvae from the plants, pass ropes dipped in kerosene over the plant. So that we have studied in the case of caseworm. Then coming to biological control, use of trichocards, I have just described, just given as use of trichocards. If you are writing the essay, you have to describe the species: Trichogramma japonicum against stem borer, Trichogramma chilonis against leaf folder, and how the trichocards are installed, what is the rate, what is the interval at which it will, everything should be described properly. And go for spraying of Bavaria basin at the rate of 20 gram per liter against stem borer as well as rice bug. And we can go for spraying of BT formulation against leaf folder. And we have to conserve natural enemies. That is one thing we have to do. Don't go for excess pesticide application. And the physical method, you can go for light traps, especially for insects such as stem borer, BPH, rice bug, etc. We can go for the use of pheromone traps, mass trapping for yellow stem borer, that is silkworm traps, and chemical control based on ETL. So here I have not listed out any insecticide. You can take insecticide recommendation which I have given for individual pests and write it in your essay. So I'm finishing the rice portion. It is extremely important because at least about 10 to 15 marks in your final exam will be from rice alone. So though I have completed it in 2 hours, usually the proportion allotted for rice in a final exam will be high. So go through this thoroughly. Thank you.